98 Not Out, sponsored by Shepherd Neame, proud supporters of cricket in Essex.
Welcome along to 98 Not Out, all the way from Sydney, Australia, where it's very early in the morning, but many thanks for joining us, Mr. Mark Waugh.
G'day guys, how are you over there?
We're all right. Now, look, by the t-shirt you're wearing, it looks like summer is arriving over there.
Yeah, well, it's not quite. It's about 2 weeks away, but it's starting to warm up. The cricket season is basically starting as we speak, really. India are out in Australia, and so it's just starting to heat up, and looking forward to it, actually.
Going to be a big series, that, isn't it? You looking forward to that?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, India are obviously a top side, and our boys have been back on track, I think, the last 12 months. India, led by Virat Kohli. Kohli's only going to play one test, which is a bit disappointing for the summer. He's got to go back for the birth of his child, but still should be a great summer of cricket.
How do you fancy Australia's chances?
I think Australia will win. I really do. I think with our bowling lineup and Kohli missing 3 out of the 4 tests, it's a big hole for India to fill. So on home soil, India beat us last time, but we had no David Warner and no Steve Smith. So they're back in the team, obviously, for Australia, which makes a huge difference. So, yeah, I think Australia should win this summer. Should win quite clearly, actually.
Not that crowd noise really makes such a difference for cricket like it would do for football or soccer, whatever we call it. But are the crowds going to be loud back in? We were talking to Shane Watson last week, and he said that there was 50-odd thousand people watching the State of Origin game.
Yeah, well, that's right. So, I mean, it keeps changing day by day. In South Australia, for example, they've got a complete lockdown at the moment, and that's where the first Test match is due to be played in Adelaide. So, but assuming things are reasonably normal, I think, they're saying there can be 25,000 people at the Boxing Day Test match, which is still a pretty good crowd, isn't it? It's not going to be full, but I still think there'll be plenty of Aussies. And when India come to Australia, there's always heaps of Indians in the crowds as well, making plenty of noise. So I think there'll be a pretty good atmosphere.
We saw that at the State of Origin rugby league game a day or two ago. There was it 52,000 admitted to the stadium for that game?
Yeah, 50-odd thousand Queenslanders, which is madness. There's a few New South Wales Blues supporters there. Of course, I'm New South Wales supporter. The result was pretty ordinary, but it was great to see people out and about and going to sporting events and living a normal life. I know you guys are doing it really tough in the UK and Europe. It's terrible watching from afar, but hopefully you guys get through it and everything's back to normal as soon as possible. But certainly in Australia, a lot of the businesses and a lot of the sport is carrying on as per normal at the moment, which is great.
That's good. And the West Indies have just arrived in New Zealand as well. Is there any talk of? I know New Zealand have been really hard on restricting the virus and whatever else. Are there any prospect for spectators down there?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on in New Zealand. I know they've been very strict over there, so not sure. I haven't got an answer for you, mate. I'm just concentrating on the Australians. But I think we're still letting a few Kiwis in. We're trying to keep them out, but we'll let the odd one in if we have to.
You're always trying to keep them out. That's nothing to do with the virus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, just looking back at your career, we'll start with obviously we're an Essex-based radio station, and you had some pretty good times at Essex back in the day.
I did. I really did. I was just trying to, before I came on air, I was just trying to think of all the players I play with. But I can't even remember the year I first started, but it might have been around 85. I actually replaced Alan Border at the back end of a season as a replacement for AB. He had to go home early, so Alan Border recommended me to Essex, which was great. I think my first game actually was pretty good. I made 100 against Nottingham in a Sunday league game. Yeah, I made 100 and got a couple of wickets. So I remember that quite clearly. That was my first game, and I only played the back end of that season. Then, of course, I came back later and played a couple of full seasons and some part-time seasons again after that. But I just had great times. I remember it very clearly because when I first played for Essex, I hadn't played for Australia yet, so I hadn't really established myself as an international player, and it was I suppose a fair bit of pressure to come and fill Alan Border's shoes, but luckily I was playing with a great team. Graham Gooch, was the leader when I first started. Keith Fletcher was still around, still playing. So it seems a long time ago. I think Fletcher was about 60, but he batted. I think he batted at number 7, and but he was a great leader as well, Keith Fletcher. So I just had a great time. I learnt my cricket on the run. Really played on some pitches in the first season that were pretty dodgy, and I think if you averaged around 39 or 40, you were doing pretty well. And then it all sort of changed a season or two after that when they brought in all these penalties for bad pitches where, I think we lost 25 points and lost one of the competitions, county competitions, because of that one season at Southend. We got docked 25 points. But, yeah, great times at Essex. There's so many players that I first played with that were playing for England. Graham Gooch and Neil Foster, Derek Pringle, all these guys were sort of the first group of players. John Lever. I played with John Lever, of course. Brian Hardy, all these characters. I'm sure you've got a lot of stories on those guys, and it was
legendary.
A bit of an eye opener, to be honest, playing with those sort of guys.
Pringle's written a good book called Cricket in the 80s. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't read it, but I've seen bits of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and in that, I mean, it's a cracking read because he talks about the exploits off the pitch as well as on the pitch, and. Were you treated to some of the Chelmsford nightlife and back in the 80s?
Well, I was led astray a few times, but I remember going to quite a few sort of old trendy pubs with Derek Pringle and John Stevenson. I know Suggsy liked his different pubs and different bands and beers and wines and that sort of things. I roomed with Paul Pritchard a fair bit of my career at Essex, and it was good fun, but there were so many characters amongst the squad in those days. Brian Hardy, he was a character, Lager, and then I remember John Lever. We were playing against might have been Derbyshire. I think Dennis Sully or Michael Holding was playing, one of the two, and John Lever ran into bowl with a mask on. He just picked the mask off from someone in the crowd and ran into bowl with his mask to get out of the joke shop. But yeah, there were so many characters, but. I've got to say, Essex, they were great competitors on the field, but they enjoyed off the field just as much. There was a lot of good drinkers in the team. I won't reveal too many names, but I'm sure they're aware of who they are. But they were good guys. They're really, really good fun, and you were playing in each other's pockets, pretty much 7 days a week. So you had to enjoy it, each other's company. Otherwise, it would have been a bit of a grind. So it was all good fun, really.
It looks like not only did you replace Alan Border, but you were personally recommended by Alan Border as well. I mean, there's not much more pressure than that, is there?
Yeah, well, he's the Australian captain, so it was a pretty good start. I mean, better that he likes than he doesn't like you, and he's a tough marker too, AB. So, but I get on great with AB, and there's been so many Aussies go through the system there at Essex, haven't they? Michael Casbridge, Stuart Law. I'll miss a few, but AB was probably the original. The original trendsetter.
Darren usually points out the shirt I have in the background here, Peter Siddle.
Yeah, that's right, Peter Siddle. Yeah, the banana man.
Adam Zampa.
So there's lots of Aussies, and but yeah, I mean there was pressure, of course, because I suppose a lot of the Essex fans and players probably wouldn't have known a whole lot about me when I first went over there, but it was just a matter of performing, really. Once you start performing, then you get the respect, and if you fit into the culture of the team, and if you're not too arrogant or aloof, you'll fit in well. And Essex, they made me fit in. They made me very welcome, especially after I scored a few runs and took a few wickets, so I was pretty happy, and that made a difference, of course. So it was pretty smooth sailing, once I started to do well.
Is that a big thing when you're playing overseas that once you've relaxed and fitted into the team and become part of it, that it reflects in your game, you're more relaxed and you can express yourself a bit easier?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, in some ways you're sort of by yourself, aren't you? You move to a foreign country, playing a team you don't know anyone to start with, so. And there's the pressure of being the overseas player, so it sort of can get to you if you have a bad start and you're not in a good team environment. I mean, Graham Gooch was a great captain, so he made me feel very welcome right from the word go. Whether it be off the field, having dinners and luncheons and barbecues at people's places, or going down the pub, or just with the cricket in general, just in the nets and so forth. So I mean, Goochie was great. He was a tough taskmaster too, Graham, but he's very individual sort of, he'd look after individuals as well. He was a leader on the field and off the field. So I was lucky I was in a great team environment. And at that stage, Essex were having a lot of success. So I was amongst a good side, and there was a lot of confidence about everyone playing in the team. And as I said, I fitted in well and was lucky enough to make a pretty good impact in my first county season, albeit in very tough batting conditions. And then after that, I scored a lot of runs, and they got a bit of value out of me with my bowling as well. I remember bowling a lot of overs and getting a stress fracture in my back at one stage.
Oh.
But I was always involved with bat, ball in the field, and the pressure sort of was relieved quite early when I was making a lot of runs.
When you were going around the world with Australia, the world cricket scene was very different back then to what it is now. What are your sort of best memories of playing Test cricket or ODI cricket around the world, and what are the ones that you kind of, when you think back, you wince a little bit and think, oh God, that wasn't great?
Well, whenever I played England and beat England, they were the best memories, to be honest. I mean, we were brought up with the Ashes being the number one series for an Australian, and I'm sure for an Englishman as well. So it was always the highlight of, I think, players' careers in my era. Obviously, my first test is a big highlight where I played against England in Adelaide and knocked off 100 in my first test. Graham Gooch was captain, obviously, of England in that test match. So, I mean, that sticks to my memory very clearly, that my first test, and always the tours to England, playing at Lord's and these sort of places where, it's just the magic of cricket. I grew up on watching the Ashes on TV in the middle of the night in Australia. So I always wanted to play in an Ashes series, of course, and then obviously to do it in Australia and in England. I've got to say, not just because I'm speaking to Essex people, that, that they were the series that I really remember fondly. I mean, of course, going to India and the West Indies, when I first started playing for Australia, the West Indies still had Marshall and, these great players, Greenwich, Dujon, Viv Richards, Richardson, Ambrose, Walsh, Marshall. So that was a highlight as well, just playing against those guys. Not that we ever thought we could beat them, because we sort of held them in such high awe that, we were happy just to play against them. But every country's got its own, differences, and it's great to play in all these different countries. Pakistan, I played in Pakistan when I first started, and Sri Lanka, India, they're great. New Zealand, South Africa was always a tough place to tour. Very tough crowds and good sides to play against. So I always remember playing in South Africa and making a few runs over there. But nothing beats playing at Lord's or the MCG or the SCG, Australia versus England. Growing
up, who were your cricketing heroes? Who were the ones that you really admired?
Well, the Aussies, it was Doug Wallers and Greg Chappell. I just loved the way those two guys, batted, and I sort of had a bit of their game, I think, in my game when I played for Australia. And Viv Richards, he was probably my hero growing up. Even though I played against him, he was still a great player then, but he was just number one. Years before that, he was just an amazing player. So, I just love Viv Richards, just the way he went about playing and his aura on the ground, the collar up and the chewing the gum and banging the handle of his bat out, and the chest was always puffed out there, and just the way he played his cricket was he was the one guy that sort of stood out to me to watch and play against.
Now, you mentioned your batting and your bowling, but you weren't too shabby in the field either, were you? Did you hold a record at some stage? Yeah, that was you held a record, didn't you?
Yeah, I had the Test record. I think 181 catches for a lot of years there, and now that's been passed by. I think Raul Draver was the first one to go past me, and then it might have been who was it? I can't remember. Anyway, it's gone. The record's gone. But look, I love my catching, and for Essex, I sort of slipped into second slip there for most of my career, and field there for the spinners. John Childs took a few catches off Charlie Childs there at slip, but I remember taking a lot of catches off Derek Pringle. He was good to field to in the slips because they didn't come quite as quick as, say, Neil Foster or those guys. Such you just hit the top of the wicket and they little outswings to just find the edge. But look, I love to be involved in the game, whether it was batting or bowling, but fielding it just sort of come to me fairly naturally. So I'm sure I dropped a few catches as well, but I remember taking a few good ones. The best one I took, I think, was at down at Kent. The guy who umpires now used to be a left-hand batsman, umpire, international player.
Peter Willey?
International umpire, left-hand bat. I took a cracking catch off him at the gully. I remember it clearly down at Canterbury. That was the best catch I took, I reckon, when I was playing for Essex. So I should know his name. You guys should know his name. He's umpiring now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. He was a Kent player.
Yeah, he used to be left-hand opening batsman, dark hair, quite thin. Anyway, it's a trivia question.
We don't talk about Kent.
No, we don't like Kent. No, that's right. Fair enough. Anyway.
So Mark, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of people obviously will name somebody like Viv as one of their idols growing up. Your batting style it's been credited as being very easy on the eye, very natural, rather than ever forcing the ball. So how did you? Was that literally something that just happened naturally, or did you work at that? No,
it's just naturally. I mean, I had those players that I love to watch, Greg Chappell and Doug Wallace. Greg Chappell's probably, in a similar mould, I guess. He was a great player, though. But, I mean, Viv Richards, I would love to have battled like Viv Richards, but I couldn't bat like him. But no, it was just natural. I mean, I didn't have a lot of coaching when I grew up. There was a few coaches along the way, but generally, obviously, with Stephen, we just had a lot of backyard cricket, obviously, but I mean, Stephen had a different style to me, so it's just what was natural, really. Yeah, sometimes people would say I was easy to the eye, and then they'd say I was lazy in the same sentence. So I sort of had to cop that, being in that bracket all my career. But no, it's just the way I played. I wouldn't say I specifically tried to bat like anybody, but just what happened naturally, and that's how it developed.
It's a bit like David Gower, isn't it? Gower was always accused of the same thing. Fantastic and beautiful to watch, but there are others that say all you do is bowl one across him and tell Gully to get ready.
Well, you got to get out some way, don't you? If you're going to get out, you may as well look good at getting out as well. So, I love David Gower actually as a player. I was lucky enough to play against him at Chelmsford. I think he got a double 100 against us there at Chelmsford one day. Just he batted beautifully. But he used to hit the ball very hard, even though they said he was a graceful player. He used to time the ball so well. But yeah, I mean, every player's got their own style. And it's funny, when you get called an elegant player, you'd like to be called a tough player as well at some stage. You don't get that bracket. And someone like Stephen, he was called a tough, gritty player, but he'd like to be called something different as well at different stages in your career. So it's just you sort of get put in a bracket or a basket, and that's the way you are the rest of your career. But I mean, it takes all different styles to form a good team of whether they're batsmen or bowlers. And you need your elegant and graceful and your aggressive players, and you need your tough players and stodgy players as well. And that was always the case at Essex too. There's a few sort of stodgy players there, and some great elegant players as well.
If you're scoring runs, you're elegant. If you're not scoring runs, you're lazy. Was that it?
That's it. Yeah, correct. Or you're not trying or something like that. Yeah. Take the good with the bad.
I'm going to ask you a strange one. When you're out in the middle playing for Australia, you're wearing a baggy green, you're in front of a packed SCG or MCG. In your head, did you ever hear Richie Benno commentating on your shots? Did you ever give it to Richie?
Yeah, well, when I played for Australia, there was a great group of commentators. Richie and Tony Gregg and Bill Laurie, Ian Chappell. They were all still around. So, to be honest, I never really watched many replays, or obviously we didn't have the TV on, listening to the commentary in the dressing room. The TV might be on, but we never will listen to the commentary. No disrespect to those guys because they're great commentators, but no, I just. Not really. You might see the odd highlights when you get home or something, but I wouldn't go out of my way to sort of to watch any replays or listen to the commentary. It was more later years, really, on YouTube or whatever, where all these replays are up and running. So when I was actually playing, I had great respect for those guys. You'd see them at the ground in the morning or at the hotel or something. But you're more focused on just playing. But you get to see some of the replays probably more often these days.
Yeah, they were an amazing team, and will live on through the 12th man, which is brilliant.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you're looking around today, who are the guys that catch your eye in the modern game?
As far as batsmen are concerned, you've got probably your three top players with Steve Smith, Coley, and Kane Williamson. Joe Root was probably right up there. He's probably just dropped off a little bit in recent times, but he's a quality player as well. And then you got your great competitors who can win games like Ben Stokes. Some of that batting, that innings against Australia.
Yeah.
But Headingley, dare I remind myself, it was an amazing innings. But there's some great fast bowlers, group of fast bowlers around the world now. Obviously, England have got Stuart Broad and James Anderson, and Australia have got as good a bowling attack as they've had at any time in recent times with Stark and Hazelwood and Cummins and Nathan Lyon. The Indians have got good pace bowlers now with Shami and Jasper Bumrah. There's so many great players, and of course you got the T20 format these days, which wasn't around when I played. So you've got guys who can whack the ball out of the park and take amazing catches. The list of top players is endless. But the three batsmen that really stand out for me are Smith, Coley, and Williamson. They're all different in their own way, but I love watching them play and going about their business and their hunger for runs and their enthusiasm for the game. So there's lots of fantastic players playing at the moment.
Interesting that the three that you just mentioned there are all captains, and sometimes people say, a captain or a very, very good player maybe isn't the same player when he is the captain, but those three guys have thrived, haven't they?
Yeah, well, Steve's just not captain now. He was, but you're right. A class player is a class player, whether you're captain or not. It generally doesn't affect them too much. They manage to sort of, be able to do both things, in great fashion. So, those guys are probably the three guys where their batting definitely doesn't affect their captain. Occasionally a captain will affect their batting, but generally speaking, the tough guys with the great mindset as well. All those three guys are really strong mentally as well. So that definitely helps.
What do you think about the Australians letting the cameras into the dressing room for that series, the Test last year?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I always think those kind of things are really, for someone that's never done that or been in that environment, it's a real education and a real eye opener.
Yeah, well, I thought the documentary was great. It was sort of unfiltered as well. I mean, they might have taken a few bits and pieces out, but I think the players are obviously more used to it these days. The cameras and the media. It's just part of their game these days. In our day, it probably would have been frowned upon and players would have said, no, leave us alone. But, I mean, players are sort of brought up with the media and the attention these days. So it's sort of second nature to them. I think, the media broadcast now, I work for Fox Sports and we get a lot of access to the dressing rooms as well with, cameras after the game and during the game. So I just think it's the way to go. People love watching it. The average punter down the street, they love it, don't they? And the cricket experts as well, like you guys, it's just gives a different insight into, I guess the pressures of the modern day player and the bit of fun they have and how they prepare and how they react to different aspects of the game. So, I think it's great. Yeah, I'd like to see more of it, but obviously there's going to be restrictions now, isn't there? With COVID, it's probably not going to be quite the same for a little while. But I think those sorts of documentaries are magnificent. It makes you feel like you're in the team and some of the pressures they go through.
And it's not just cricket. I mean, there's been a lot of sporting teams have done the same format. And over here with the football, Spurs did that. And again, really interesting to see the likes of Mourinho and how he interacts with these top names and maybe some of the egos of the big stars. But I find it really fascinating, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. And, I'm sure there's going to be more of it these days with the way the world is technology-wise.
What about the popularity?
David Boone and Murph Hughes enjoying it too much.
I think the cameraman might have got sprayed with alcohol. If they were in the dressing room, I reckon, yeah, it would have been a bit dangerous for the cameraman for sure.
Well, that's something you'd never see again, is David Boone's VB record on the plane up to England. I don't think that's going to be repeated, is it?
No, I think the boys are too. You know, they won't even come close. There's a few decent drinkers there, I think, in the Australian team, but generally speaking, you know, they're pretty. Their lifestyle's a fair bit different to what happened in those days. Yeah.
What about the toughest opponents? Who are the guys you mentioned? You know, your heroes, if you like. Who are the ones that you really, when you were in a battle with, and found the hardest to play against?
Well, I mean, obviously the Indians were very tough in India in those conditions. But I grew up. My initial part of my career was playing the West Indies, and they were that far ahead of anyone else through the early 90s. Obviously, we beat them in 95, and it sort of changed a lot from there. But, you know, you're playing guys like Ambrose and Walsh and Marshall. Desmond Haynes with the bat, you know, he was a real competitor. Obviously, Viv Richards. And the South Africans were tough too. You know, Kepler Wessels was captain of South Africa when I first played, and they had guys like Donald and Pollock. And, you know, they had fantastic, you know, class batsmen as well, like Callis. So, I mean, you respect anyone who plays for their country in Test match cricket has got something about them. You don't get there, you know, by fluke. So, you know, everyone's different in their own way, the way they carry themselves on the field. But, you know, some batsmen are harder to get out than other batsmen, and some bowlers are a bit more in your face than other bowlers. But, yeah, I mean, the great West Indian team, you would have to say they were, you know, they were very tough when I first started playing. I mean, England as well, Graham Gooch, what a great player. He wasn't a great competitor. Gucci was. So I had a lot of good times with Gucci on and off the field, and I saw the way he went about his cricket. You know, he was a competitor, and you know, he hated losing. And if he got out early in a county game, he'd go and do a 5k jog, you know, just to punish himself. So, not that I'd recommend doing that. But that's how tough Gucci was. Yeah, he loved to play the game hard and fair on the field. So, no one in particular, but those sort of guys I just mentioned were tough to play against.
He kind of instilled that in Alistair Cook. Alistair Cook is like a kind of a pet project, or was a pet project of Gucci from a very young age. And quite often, if you live around these parts and out on the country lanes, you could have seen the pair of them out running, and Gucci.
Really?
Oh yeah, and Gucci screaming at Cook to keep up, and you know, only another 2K to go. Keep going, that kind of thing. Yeah,
well, that's madness. I couldn't think of anything worse than running actually around the country lanes. I'd rather be playing golf or going to the pub. But yeah, well, that's right. I mean, Alistair Cook I never played with Alistair, obviously, a bit younger than me, but he's a fantastic protege from Essex, great leader and tremendous batsman as well. So I'm talking about leaders. Nasser was saying I played a lot with Nasser, and he was a tough competitor. Don't worry.
He's tough at the bottom.
He could spit the dummy.
He wasn't one for buying a round of beers, though, was he?
No, exactly. And I think he doesn't go out of his room these days to save his tour allowance when he's commentating. But he loves lockdown. Yeah, but I always knew he had something different about him, Nasser. He had that a bit of an edge about him when he played for Essex, and you know he had very high standards. So in all seriousness, I knew he would, you know, be an England player, and he went on to captain England. But you know, he had that little bit of mental toughness about him too. So yeah, he's a good guy, good fun at certain times, and other times I'd say, you know, it was hard to get along with. But you know, he just had that attitude that, you know, he wanted to be the best player he could be, and I think it rubbed a few people up the wrong way, even at Essex, who had some guys who were pretty easy going in the squad at that time. But he was a bit different to those guys.
He's pretty good on the mic these days as well. He's
very good. Yeah, he is. Yeah, no, he's an excellent commentator. Him and Mike Atherton, you know, they go really good. There's a lot of great commentators there. But yeah, no, NASA's doing well.
Isha Guhar's a big star down in Australia, and she's kind of representing the progress that women are making in the game. And I mean, people forget that she was a hell of a cricketer when she was playing. And another one who
so
was
she tells us, yeah. So she tells us bowling a little outswingers and in-swingers. But she's a great commentator and lovely person as well. We'll be together with the Indian series not far away. So she's in Australia as we speak. I think haven't caught up with Ish yet, but yeah, look, she does a great job behind the microphone. She knows the stuff really well. She does a lot of homework, and yeah, she's really good. I didn't see her play cricket, only the odd video, but in the commentary box, she's really good fun, and she holds her own with the boys. That's for sure. She gives a bit of stick there, but she knows the cricket. She's great to work with and very knowledgeable.
She's very clever. She's got a master's degree in biochemistry or something.
Is she? I didn't think she was that clever.
No. Her and Ebony Rainsford Brent. Yeah, the pair of them. Her and Ebony Rainsford Brent are.
Okay.
They're very clever. But
I realise she was clever, but not that clever. Okay.
But women's cricket is in good shape in Australia. You got to.
Yeah, it's going great. The women's cricket. I mean, the women's Big Bash is on at the moment in Australia, and they're the TV audiences are really high, and obviously the crowds are not there at the moment, but there are a lot of people watching women's cricket, and it's improving every year. I think the girls have gone to a new level with their professionalism. They're getting paid good money, and you can see it in the way they play. There's a lot of good young players coming through in Australia as well. A girl called Phoebe Litchfield, who plays for the Sydney Thunder, who's the franchise I'm sort of involved with. I think she's only 17. She's an amazing player. Look out for her, Phoebe Litchfield, 17 or 18. But the girls are very athletic and. They hit the ball hard and, they field well. They're taking some great catches. I've watched some of the BBL this season. There's been some amazing catches. So it's just getting better and better every year, the standard of women's cricket.
So away from cricket, what are you doing with yourself these days?
Well, I live on the Central Coast, which is about an hour from Sydney. It's a rural area. My wife's a professional racehorse trainer. So I'm heavily involved in horse racing. We've got a farm here. We've got horses on our farm. We've got 40 horses on the farm, and then my wife trains at a track not far away as well. So really involved a lot in horse racing. Obviously, I'm employed by Fox Sports, so that takes up a lot of time during the summer. So I'm working there. I do a bit of work for Unibet, and I'm involved with the Sydney Thunder a little bit. But it's mainly horse racing and cricket, really. They're the two sports and two things that take up all my time. So I play a bit of golf. I love my golf, and I love all sports, watching sport on TV. So yeah, that's basically the life at the moment. Pretty good.
You're going to have a Melbourne Cup winner?
We've had a Melbourne Cup runner a lot of years ago, but well, hopefully one day I'll have a Melbourne Cup winner. But that's not easy to do. That's pretty tough job to do. But I love my racing, and it's a big part of what goes on in my life at the present time.
Any desires to go back into the selection side of things?
No. I was selected for 4 years. I really enjoyed that, actually. But then I signed with Fox Sports, and it was just a bit too much. Not a conflict, but it wasn't. It was difficult at times to sort of do both things. But I love my time as a selector in Australia. It was certainly challenging, but now just focused on the commentary, and that's enough to keep me pretty busy.
Well,
on the show last week, we were talking about the changes that are coming into the BBL, the power surge and the X Factor and all that kind of razzmatazz. What's your views on that?
Geez, I haven't got my head around those three changes yet. We'll see how it goes. I didn't think there was any need to really change T20 cricket too much. I think it's if you get good pitches and good quality players, the entertainment's there without tampering too much with what's going on. So we'll wait and see. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked at those changes too much, but we'll have to wait and see how it affects if there's a positive impact on the game. Hopefully there is, yeah.
All right, Mark, listen, we will let you crack on. I know it's early and we do appreciate you getting
I've got
up
to get some breakfast.
A healthy one. No big full English Briar for you.
No, exactly. No, enjoyed talking to you guys. I really love my time at Essex. I've got a lot of great memories there and some good friends there. Obviously, I don't catch up with them as much as I'd like to. I've got to mention Ronnie Arani. He'd be upset if I didn't mention his name. Actually.
Yeah.
Ronnie's a good mate of mine, so I can't go without mentioning Ronnie. But I have great respect for Essex. I always look at the results and how they're going, and always loved my time there when I played there.
Well, I know Ronnie's a shy, retiring kind of character, but ever since
I think isn't he the CEO at Essex or something now?
he's the director of the cricket committee. But what I would say is that since he got that role, that was the turnaround when Essex came up from Division 2. They won the championship. They've won the T20 Blast. They've won the Bob Willis Trophy this year.
Yeah.
And I think Ronnie takes or should deserve a lot of credit for that success.
Yeah, he's a good guy, Ronnie. Good. He'll tell you anyway that's all because of him. So, good to talk to you guys, and all the best over there in England.
Many thanks, Mark.
Okay, see you later.
Very much.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye. See you guys.
Okay.
Here we go.